I know a lot of you guys in this room. I probably know 20% of this room. So to all of you guys I know, hello. I'm so glad you guys are here. And for those I don't know, I hope to meet you. Come find me and somewhere in the next couple of days, because I'd love to chat with all of you. So for those of you who don't know me, basically my name is Vanessa Edwards. I'm the president of Creative Performance. And my background is as a marketing agency principal. I know, it was painful for those of you who are principals. So I used to own a digital marketing firm. We did demand generation for large B2B technology companies like Seagate and Netgear. This was back in 2005, and we grew at about 80% a year for 5 years, and we made and we broke processes. And we implemented Workamajig back when it was Creative Manager Pro back in the day. And that was, I did it all myself. And that was exciting. And worked with Workamajig back when there was only a few support people. And I remember using to write these really complex emails, hoping they would call me and walk me through how complex it was. But I got it figured out. And we ultimately, we worked on sort of figuring out how we align people, process, and technology in our agency as we grew. So ultimately, we sold that agency in 2010. And I really wanted to figure out, what do I love to do? And I'm one of those crazy people. I love operations, I love finance, and I love marketing agencies. Kind of a weird trio. So ultimately, what I did was I said, I'm going to take this methodology into a consultancy, into creative performance. And ultimately, what I did was founded this consultancy that focuses on making agencies successful. And ultimately, by doing that, by finding the right level of process, getting the right people on the right seats on the bus, and ultimately finding the right technology and making all three of those things work together, all three of those things sort of sing for your agency. And so that was, we did that in 2010, and then we've grown over the years, and we are now actually 8 people strong for CPI. So for those of you who haven't met my team, they're all sitting in the back here, or most of them are. So please don't hesitate to come and tackle them and ask them lots of questions about Workamajig, about operations, about finance and accounting. Any one of the above. They love to talk about that stuff just as much as I do. So what I really wanted to talk to everybody about today, I wanted to start by just talking about some of the agency sort of industry observations. So we work with a wide range of clients. We work with, I would say 20-person, 30-person agencies, all the way up to 1,400-person holding companies that have, 15 legal entities and 25 offices. So we've kind of done it all. But I think our sweet spot, is really between 40 and 150 people in there, which is where most of the people live in Workamajig. And so, we've worked with over 100 agencies at a very, very detailed level. We get in their business, let's be honest, from their accounting business into project management, into resourcing, into everything. So we know these agencies intimately. And so I thought I'd just start by telling you guys a little bit about what we're seeing in the industry today. What are agency owners and agencies trying to do today? Right? So they're really trying to build high-performance teams. So they're trying to top-grade their teams, right? They really want to have good people in their teams, because that's also, again, going to add to the quality of the delivery, and it's going to add to the culture, right? They want to create balanced client relationships. I know, believe it or not, balanced client relationships. Win-win client relationships, believe it or not. That's where we're going. So enough of these win-lose relationships where they tear up these agencies and they chew them up, spit them out, and they move on to the next one. There's still a lot of those guys out there. But that's not what agencies ultimately are looking to keep, right? They're trying to get out of that and into the better and healthier relationships. They're also focused on having project management as a unified discipline. So we're going to talk a lot more about this later, so don't fret. But really, how does project management as a discipline and as a unified discipline help them? I think that the agency organizational structure has really changed over the last 5 or 6 years in order to be successful, and project management is a really key piece of that. So we'll talk about that a lot in detail today. But with that, they're also looking, they want to make data-driven decisions. Gosh, we've heard this how many times just in the last day here. We don't want to just make decisions on gut. We want to make data-driven decisions. Well, how do we do that? And again, we'll talk about that a lot more today. They want to have a great culture, right? And I'm not just talking about Beer Thursday culture or Beer Friday culture or the fact that the fridge is stocked all the time. I want people to stay. I want to have people want to be here on a regular basis and enjoy the agency space, okay? They also want, and believe it or not, a lot of agencies don't have this, and it makes me sad because it's a very difficult thing. They want to have profit that drives opportunity. How many times, I mean, the average, I would say the average profitability in an agency is like 9%, right? It's pathetic, right? It's really sad, okay? So agencies, they do not have the profit. They can't take risks and opportunities, right? If I don't have the profit, I can't take the risk, even if it's a beautiful, even if it's an amazing opportunity. And the ones that do, they're sitting there hoping and praying, right? So we want an agency to be profitable so that they can actually have new and neat opportunities, and they can do things that other agencies can't do. That's what makes the culture fun, right? So all of these things add together. And the other thing they really want to do is they want to share the wealth. I don't know an agency principal that wants to make a lot of money so he can drive off in his Ferrari, okay? That's just not the way agency principals think. They want to make a lot of money so they can invest it back in the employees, back in the agency, and do really cool things. Those are the majority, almost all of the agency owners. So they want that profit so that it drives opportunity and so that they can share it with the people who really are performing on the team. They can actually share it with the leadership that's actually making it happen, or all the employees that are making it happen. That is also going to help them retain the key talent. So we all know, right, turnover in this industry, it's horrible, right? It's absolutely horrible. I'm not sure most of the other industries would actually survive with the turnover that happens in this industry, okay? And somehow we manage it, but it is so expensive. And I don't know that there's anybody that loves switching companies every couple of years. I think sometimes they're forced to because agencies don't have their stuff together, or they make life really difficult, or there's no accountability. There's a zillion reasons for this. But agencies, they want to retain key talent. They're just struggling with it. It's not like they're going, yeah, let's turn people over. We don't, this isn't expensive or anything. Right? So that's one of the things they also want to do. They're also looking to integrate and leverage technology. Hey, that's what all you guys are here to do, right? You're trying to integrate this technology. Project management, accounting, CRM, resource management, deliverable markup and routing, right? All of this being integrated. There's so much value to having all of this integrated. It's not easy to do it, right? I'm not going to lie to you. This is not necessarily an easy thing. But once you can do it, once you can get that and you can leverage technology, then now things are really going to move, okay? And then a lot of agencies are really preparing for exit. I don't know a lot of agency owners that want to work until they're 80, right? But what is that exit? Could I give that down? Can I give the agency to my leadership? Can I give the agency to my employees? Well, the way most agencies are run right now, not without them running into the ground, right? So we have to find the right solution for that. And sometimes it might be let's get bought by an Omnicom or something like that. But I would say that's a rare situation. It's really more how do we empower that next level of management down to ultimately run that profitable agency. So what is everybody struggling with right now consistently? Okay, I think number one, the management teams aren't aligned. And that can be a big problem. For those of you who have struggled with this, with a technology deployment, or one of the things it is that we always talk about from the top down, right? And when management teams are not aligned, maybe they're not aligned across the management team, maybe they're not aligned, the principals are not aligned, or maybe they're not aligned with the employees, right? It could go any one of those directions, but when that happens, it's difficult to get anything done. It's difficult to make any type of change. Okay, and that can be a big struggle. There are a lot of people that have terminal client relationships, right? How many people here probably have a terminal client relationship, but we don't want to admit it? One that's probably going to go. Yeah, there's probably more than that. I'll be honest. You probably all have one, okay? But it's the client relationship that you might be in denial about, that's a win-lose relationship, that's beating up your people. Scariest thing I ever did was fire our largest client that was 30% of our revenue in our agency. And it was the scariest thing I ever did, but we were turning over, they were beating up, my poor account manager was coming back crying on a regular basis. And it was just horrible at the end of the day. And I had to stop and say, okay, this is great for top line, right? If all I really care about is top line growth, then sure, I should keep this horrible client. But at the end of the day, what I really need to do is replace them. I need to sunset them. And so what I think people are not realizing is that there are terminal client relationships. I'm not saying just fire them with no plan. What I'm saying is they can be sunsetted in a good way. They can be replaced so that they're not beating up on your team, on your organization, and really making a big problem with the culture. So here's another one. Okay, there's a lot of issues out here with this. So people are trying to roll out project management, right, as a discipline right now, and they're really struggling with it. Okay, they're doing it wrong. It's actually either completely failing, in which case they're like, oh, this didn't work at all. I'm going to go back to what I had before. Or they're sitting in it and it's not quite working right for them, and they're saying, I'm not sure. I'm not getting the efficiencies I thought I would get out of this, or I'm not getting the value I thought I would get out of this. And people are really struggling with that right now. And I think it's because they're not quite sure how to do it right. So that's another thing we're going to talk about a little bit about, actually quite a bit about in just a little bit. Data, right? I hate to say this, but a lot of the people that are coming to us, they have garbage data, right? At the end of the day, they don't trust their data. You have this amazing system that could provide you amazing data, and I bet half of you don't trust it. Half of you are frustrated with it, and you don't know how to get out what you want, right? And a lot of that has to do with, we talked a lot about it, garbage in, garbage out, right? Number one. But number two is we can put stuff in that isn't garbage. Maybe it's like in between, it's like recycling, but we can make it better, right? But the problem is that we don't do that, and we'll talk a little bit about that because we don't have good transaction management, and we don't have people looking at the data. We don't have people shepherding the data. Talking about that later, okay? And but it's non-actionable. I can't do anything about it, or worse, I am actually going to make a bad decision because I looked at bad data, okay? That happens a lot. Okay, we also have volatile cultures, right? With all of this stuff that we're struggling with, the cultures are going up and going down. We don't have a great cash reserve, and so we lose one client, and now I have to fire 5 people, and now everybody's so sad, and everyone's upset, and I don't have a good pipeline to just bring something in afterwards, right? So we have this volatile culture that really does not help keep the consistency and keep the value of the culture in place. And obviously, that unpredictable pipeline does not help with that, right? So again, when we were talking about CRM and we were talking about your business development, being able to always have those 2 opportunities that are closing, right? That's going to allow you to be able to sunset a client, make that decision to sunset a client sooner rather than later, right? So Profit sharing, that's a struggle, right? So if we don't have this profitability to be able to share it with everybody, then what do? We either have a team that's disappointed all the time, or what I see principals doing is they feel bad, and instead of giving out profitability when the agency has profitability, they give out bonuses when they don't even know if they were or they weren't profitable. But they give them out anyway at the end of the year, and then it becomes an entitlement, right? And now everybody thinks they're going to get a bonus whether or not the agency is actually successful. So nothing is actually linked to accountability again, okay? So, and that, of course, we want to give profit sharing, but it's risky. We don't know. So either we just do it accidentally and we don't know, and then all of a sudden we set these expectations. And I think that leads right into, we have this talent attrition. We just talked about this, right? We have to constantly recruit. We have to constantly retrain, okay? Workamajig is an amazing system, but you got to use it in the right way to be successful. Now, if I'm just consistently retraining people over and over and over on this tool, how great am I going to be, right? You're not going to be that good. So you can't be turning people over and keep the quality of the deliverables that you want to keep and the efficiency that you want to keep. So you've got to attack that, and there's lots of different ways to do that, which we'll talk about. There's a lot of people that they're not getting the ROI out of this tool that they should be getting, and I think that's probably a lot of you. You're here because you want to do better, and you can absolutely do better in this tool. And they're making great strides to make the tool even better, but most people haven't mastered what the tool can already do, let alone trying to master the new things that are getting added, okay? But the problem is most people have potentially deployed the tool the wrong way, or they didn't align people, process, and technology when they did it, and they inoculated their teams to Workamajig. And now everyone's like, well, it's all Workamajig. No, guys, it's not Workamajig. I can tell you it's not Workamajig. It's probably either we don't have management, we don't have buy-in, we don't have people who want to log their time, right? There's a lot of different things. But it's probably not Workamajig, okay? And the other thing is, I think that a lot of people don't understand the valuation drivers and the multiplier. So if I do want to exit, if I'm a principal and I want to exit this agency, all of the valuation drivers that make me successful as an agency are the ones that are going to get me purchased. But they're the ones that are going to make me want to keep my agency, right? It's the catch-22. If I do everything I want to do to get bought, that's everything I want to keep my agency, and just maybe give it to the next level down as a management, maybe create an ESOP, right? There's lots of different things. But I think people don't realize, they think if they just top line grow their revenue, that ultimately they'll be purchased no matter what happens on the bottom line. No matter how the organization's running internally. We can hide all that. They'll still want us, right? That's actually not the case whatsoever, okay? What are we going to talk about today? Okay, we're going to talk about project management as a discipline, right? This is all about project management. And we're going to talk about how you can leverage this technology and project management, A, to be successful in using the tool, and number two, to make really good data-driven decisions, right? Because that's what you guys are here to do. You didn't buy an integrated tool for nothing. You bought an integrated tool because you knew it was going to give you better data to make better decisions that was going to change your agency, right? So that is why you're going to go through it. It's not easy, guys. It's not easy to do it right, to fix everything. But there's a light at the end of the tunnel. It's totally doable. We have a lot of clients who do it. So let's talk about the integrated project management discipline, okay? What is an integrated project management discipline? Right? Basically, this discipline, it's a unified framework, right? There's clear process, clear guidelines that allow you to take the work from scoping and estimating all the way through to completion, driving both project profitability and quality. We are not going to lose our quality. What happens if we lose our quality? We lose what makes us special. Okay? We're not driving process over creativity. We are basically driving process so that the creative people don't have to think about things. How many times, if we have complete chaos in our agency, it's impossible to be strategic or creative when someone says, you need to do this in 1 hour. It's impossible, right? However, if we can lay that out, if we can use that resourcing that Ron's talking about, and we can give people space to think, space to be creative, right? Use the process to give people space to think, okay? That's going to get you your best quality, your best deliverables, okay? But a lot of times people misunderstand process for that I am trying to micromanage what you do, right? That's not the case. That's not why we're using process. Okay? We're not trying to make a well-oiled machine. We're an agency. Let's be realistic here, okay? There's going to be some chaos. They're going to call, and they're going to tell us that I have to have it tomorrow, right? We get that. But what if only 20% of our work was chaos? And what if 80% of our work could actually be realistically planned and consistently managed, okay? It's going to completely change the dynamic within your agency, okay? So let's talk a little bit about what an integrated project management discipline is and what it's not. Okay, project management, project managers need to be involved from estimating through completion, okay? We do not hand off a fully misestimated project off to a project manager and say, good luck, okay? That's happened to a lot of people, okay? And so the project management discipline has to start at the very, very, very beginning. They have to be involved in business development, whether it's new business development or existing client development, they must be involved. If the project manager knows how the work is supposed to be done, they don't do the work, but they know step by step how it gets done. They're experts in this, right? Wouldn't you want them involved in the estimating process? Wouldn't they make you better estimators, right? Wouldn't it be a much more realistic number that you could hit? Okay, may not be the budget the client has, that's a totally different story. But it probably is what it takes to deliver, okay? So I want to know that. I need to know that, okay? We're trying to get away from that scoping shockwave, right? What it is when someone, how many times does a business development person scope something in isolation, hand it off and say, good luck? Or, you can totally do this, you got this, right? And then the project manager just spends their entire time trying to figure out how that this is not going to make a horrible effect on the rest of the agency, right? Okay, we're trying to avoid that scoping shockwave. So of course, it doesn't mean that my project coordinators are going to actually be scoping and estimating. That's going to be my most senior project managers who understand workflow. They understand all these pieces. They're the ones that are going to be doing this estimating in partnership with business development, in partnership with account management. So that brings me to the fact that my project management discipline is comprised of junior, mid, and senior roles. This is not I'm a project manager as a coordinator and I grow into an account manager. Right? That's not what a unified project management discipline is. It is a discipline that is junior, mid, and senior roles that is a partner to account service all the way through the workflow in your business, okay? And it's not, the other thing is a lot of people ask me, well, isn't traffic, what is traffic, or isn't traffic project management? And traffic is a struggle because traffic came out of the very sort of original agency or traditional agency structure. Most agencies aren't structured that way anymore, okay? And because of that, they need a better org structure. And traffic, ultimately, the traditional traffic gets handed off. It's like the most thankless role ever. They get handed off the scoping shockwave disaster project, and they say, okay, figure out how to make this work. Figure out how to get it done. And that becomes a struggle. So most traffic people now are a mixture of project management and traffic, and they're spending all their time trying to get further ahead in that workflow to be successful, to try to say, hey, don't scope it like that, scope it like this, because that's going to make my life as a traffic manager so much better later down the line. All they're trying to do, really, is be a unified project management discipline. That's what they're trying to get to, but the problem is the organizational structure is not set up to make that happen, and so they get stuck trying to deal with all these really difficult projects. So the next thing is the project management discipline, it's got to be well-defined. It has to be, your roles and responsibilities need to be well-articulated. I will tell you, a lot of times people don't know the difference between account management and project management at the most detail level. We understand it at a very high level. Okay, we've got relationship, we've got strategic, we've got marketing strategy, brand strategy over here, and we've got the people who are executing the projects. But then all the questions come up at the detail level. Well, who's talking to the client? When are they talking to the client, right? Who's actually doing the kickoffs? Who's actually running the status meetings, right? It's that detail piece where everything falls down because nobody knows for sure who's supposed to be doing it. So the clarification of roles and responsibilities, you need to make sure, because half the time project management is being done in accounting, it's being done in account management, it's being sometimes done in a smaller project management discipline, okay? It's being done by traffic, by the resource manager, sometimes by the creative directors, right? It just depends. So ultimately, we've got to unify that and get it out of the other departments into its own department. And then we need to tell everybody what their roles and responsibilities are, okay? Project management, we just sort of hinted at this, but it's the value partner to client services. Two sides of the same coin, right? There's just as much value. The problem in this industry is that project management is not sexy, okay? It is not sexy. It's not viewed as sexy. I kind of think it's sexy, but nobody else seems to think it's sexy. But you know, most people didn't join a marketing firm to do project management, yet some people are really good at project management in marketing services firms, better than they are at being account managers. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's a great place to be. It's that agencies haven't defined a track for them that makes them feel as valued in the agency as all the other roles. And that's something that has to be done. They're not considered admin assistants to client services. They don't grow into it. They have their own career path, right? And most agencies don't define a career path that makes somebody feel valued enough to want to be project manager, okay? So there becomes a lot of communication strategy and making PM sexy for agencies that are trying to sort of deploy this integrated project management discipline. It could be deploying it from scratch, or it could be just refining what you already have. You still have to make it a place where people want to be. That also means you have to listen to them, which we're going to come to in a little bit. But the project management discipline, they're the hub of the wheel, right? They're not one of the spokes. They're the hub that makes sure the project gets through all of the different spokes in order to be successful. Project management is a profit center, okay? This is really important. It is a profit center. It should be a profit center for you. It is not a loss leader, but somehow your clients have convinced you that there is no value to project management and that they don't want to pay for it, and somehow you believed them, right? Somehow you believed them, but here's the question. If they wanted to do the project management themselves, wouldn't they have just hired you for the strategy? Or wouldn't they have just gone out and gotten all these freelancers to actually do the work for them? Yeah, they would have. But instead, they're giving it to you, telling you that you shouldn't have to do project management, knowing that they don't want to do it, okay? But they're convincing you somehow, some way, that you shouldn't value it and that they shouldn't have to pay for it. Well, it's BS, guys, right? They're asking you to do it as part of what you do. It's a profit center, and you guys should recognize that and charge for it appropriately, because it has to be done in order for their work to be done on time, on quality, and ultimately on budget, correct? This is a big one when it comes to Workamajig and the technology. This project management discipline, it needs to be proactive. Most agencies that have a project management discipline, it's all reactive, okay? They're always behind the power curve. And if you want to get the most out of Workamajig, you have got to be ahead of the power curve. Workamajig works the best when you know what you're doing up front, and it's beautiful, it's seamless as it runs all the way through, except that that's not how anybody works. Oh, by the way, we want to scope at the same level that we want a resource. Oh, but I don't want to do that. I don't want to talk about that detail at the very beginning. That's way too much effort and way too much time. So then I'm going to scope it in a way it doesn't align. I'm going to spend 5 times the effort trying to back it into Workamajig, and then I'm going to try from there to execute it. And oh, by the way, I clearly didn't scope it right because I did it big picture, right? So now I have to fill all these gaps and holes. Now it takes even longer, and then I have to figure out how to execute it, okay? That's where it becomes inefficient within Workamajig. if you actually have a proactive project management discipline, Workamajig is a beautiful thing, and you love it. And so the struggle is that, again, everybody is reactive, and for those of you who have a blended role, that blended account and project management role, the reason it's always reactive is I'm too busy managing the client and I'm too busy getting out the work out the door to do really good account management or really good project management, right? So now, all of a sudden, I've got mediocre at both, and I need to be great at both, okay? So you've got to have this proactive project management discipline, which means they have to have time to do the level of management and detail of Workamajig. Workamajig is a very sophisticated project management tool. The thought that you could deploy that without a project management discipline successfully kind of sounds silly, doesn't it? It does. And the people who are getting the most value out of this are the people who have proactive project management disciplines, okay? What else is the integrated project management discipline? At the end of the day, they are stewards of your data, okay? A project manager should know everything that's happening on their project, correct? So if they know everything that's happening on their project and then they're looking in the data of the system, they go, Bob's not even on this project. Why is Bob logging time to my project? Or why are you doing this service on my project? Because I scoped this. Did the project change, right? They should know this stuff, which means they work with accounting to make sure that that data is clean. So if they're making sure that the data is clean, then all of a sudden, even if it went in recycled, so to speak, it's going to come out beautiful, right? Because they're going to fix it. They're going to work with finance to actually make good data. So let's talk a little bit about a project manager's day, for those of you who aren't totally sure about what that might be, okay? So if I'm a project manager, I'm probably doing scoping and estimating. I'm probably working on scheduling. I am doing budget to actual management, okay? I am on top of my budgets. This is not something I look at once a month. This is something I look at every 3 days. Okay? If I'm not looking at it every 3 days, how am I going to catch something and stop it before it happens? Right? Proactive. Okay? And the other thing I'm probably doing is I'm probably putting out a lot of fires because that happens all the time, right? We all know that. PMs are always running around putting out fires. Okay? I'm not going to go into too much detail on this because those of you guys know this. You can read this slide. But I want to talk about the benefits because that's the most important thing. What are the biggest benefits to actually having this integrated project management discipline? Okay? You have a counterbalance to client advocates and the work advocates. Most agencies that I know, we need attention. We need a center of tension. We need balanced and healthy tension between the client advocate, which is the account manager, the work advocate, which is probably my creative staff or it's my technology group, depending upon what you have. And then I need an agency advocate. Okay? That agency advocate is the project manager. If I don't want to process everything to death, then I just need those people playing those roles, wearing those hats when they walk into meetings and saying, hey, I'm going to be the agency advocate here for a second and say, we just lost our shorts on those last 3 projects. Are you sure you want to give them this discount? Maybe we should add some value add to this project, right? How do you even know? I'm not saying that every decision you make is balanced. What I'm saying is that it ultimately balances out at the very end. But if nobody's in there speaking up for the agency in the meetings when they happen, it's naturally, this industry is naturally client-centric. It's naturally centric to the worker creative. And therefore, you're always going to make the choice for the client or for the creative, instead of balancing that out appropriately. And that's one of the biggest benefits to having that project management discipline. You'll gain clarity around roles and responsibilities. I'm not saying in any way that project managers can't reach over and do some account management duties and vice versa. I would steer clear of that when you're first rolling it out. But ultimately, there's got to be a baseline where everybody knows what they're doing. Once everybody knows what they're doing, then there's accountability. But right now, most of the time, there's excuses for everything because people aren't really clear on what they're doing or what they're supposed to be doing. We also, this is going to also reduce the duplication of effort. Because people are not clear What happens? Everybody goes to do something, and now we have duplication of effort. Or 3 different people think that the other person is doing it, and that's when the ball gets dropped, right? So you have this, it goes back and forth between duplication of effort to balls getting dropped, right? And you don't, it's not a consistent issue that you can tackle, right? And that all brings you back to roles and responsibilities. You will mitigate the scoping shockwave, okay? This is absolutely critical. So I know that there are principals out there and there are account managers and salespeople out there that are going to, they know what the value-based price is. And that value-based price, it might be an industry thing. It might just be the value that that service is to that client that day, right? So at the end of the day, even if I do a bottom-up scoping and it's supposed to be a $100,000 project and the client only has $80,000 in budget, ideally, right, we were going to cut scope. But sometimes we can't cut scope, right? And we can't cut scope, and so we say, no, that's going to ruin our deliverable or our quality, so we're going to do $100,000 worth of work. That's just considered a principal or executive investment. It's a decision. That doesn't mean I can't turn around and say, okay, project manager, go do it for 80. Figure it out, right? That's just setting them up to fail. What I can do is say, hey, principals, executives, is this what you want to invest in? Because if this is what you want to invest in, let's do it. We're going to do it for 100. We're going to write off our $20,000 to principal investment. And then at the end of the year, I'm going to tell you, oh, by the way, you spent $1 million investing in these 8 things. Do you remember? Right? You told me yes. Do you remember? Because half the time they don't, right? It just happens that way. I'm one of those people, so I can tell you I don't always remember what I give away. But I have a team that reminds me, right? Because that's the balance that we have. So the other thing that this is going to do is it's going to improve handoffs and agency throughput. So for the larger agencies, right, the handoffs and the throughput are key because as you get bigger and bigger, utilization tends to go down and down because I can't just yell across the room to my neighbor or right around the corner. I might have 8 offices or whatever it might be. I might have 4 floors. It's not as simple. So, but project management discipline is going to improve the handoffs and they're going to improve your throughput. That improving of the throughput will definitely increase your agency utilization. It will also increase the project, client, and of course your agency profitability. If I can increase my project profitability and my client profitability, I will guarantee you that it is going to increase your agency profitability. Most agencies don't have overhead spending problems. That's not their problem. Most of their problems have to do with either throughput or they have to do with the fact that they're giving away billable hours. There are billable hours that are not able to be billed to clients. That's where agencies are falling down. So if I fix projects profitability and I fix client profitability, I have fixed my agency 99% of the time, okay? And ultimately, we're going to ensure data quality. We're going to make sure we're going to improve decision making because we have good data, because the project managers are the stewards of our data now, right? And that's going to lead us to insights, and we're going to be able to change behavior with those insights. How do we build a project management discipline? Okay. Number one, I don't know, I've heard this multiple times. We need owner or executive support. We need top-down leadership that is in agreement that this is what we want to do. You have to identify your champions and your detractors. Yes, there will be detractors. You got to find them. You got to neutralize them. Okay? I don't mean that in a bad way. I don't mean take them out. But you got to figure out how to make them happy. You got to win them over. Or you can take them out. You need to set realistic expectations. I'm not going to do this. This isn't going to happen in a month, right? So a lot of times people set these unrealistic expectations. Just because I call you a project manager does not mean, and I call you an account manager, does not mean that those teams know how to work together as the team of account and project manager. They don't. If I've been in this blended role and now I'm switching, I'm probably mediocre at both, which means I need training, which means I need support. Right? I need to know what to do, okay? So you can't just split them and say go and expect it to work tomorrow, okay? You need to have a change management plan, especially for the larger agencies. Smaller agencies, top-down support can really help, but for the larger agencies, you need a plan for change management for how you're going to deal with those detractors, which talked about. And then you have got to make project management sexy. I don't know how you do it. I know how to do it, but you need to make it sexy in your agency, to your agency. You need to make it valued. Someone has to go into that role thinking that is one of the most valuable roles in the agency. And there's a lot of different ways to do that, and it's honestly different for each culture. But develop those clear roles and responsibilities. Map those roles and responsibilities to your workflow, okay? I need to know when I need to do something. If I'm a day late and $1 short for every time I do my job, it does not work. This is not going to work. So I need to know when in my workflow am I actually supposed to do these things, because believe it or not, people really don't know, okay? That's really critical. Develop that communication strategy, right? And then make sure you assess your team's strength. This is a big deal. People have natural abilities that usually map to either an account management role or a project management role, right? There are a few natural abilities that can do both well, but if you decide that that's how you're going to do it, then you're really limiting the pool of people that you can pick from. And with everything else that we have to interview on, the last thing I want to do is limit that pool, right? So I want to find the people who are really good naturally at being an account manager and really good naturally about being a project manager. I want to find those and I want to hire them, okay? And then I'm going to account map based on those strengths. So I'm going to say, what's my forecasted fee income? How much account management? How much project management? How many bodies do I need per team so I can effectively account map this so that when I do roll this out or refine this, I know I have enough. One of the problems is when it's mismapped, there's every excuse because you don't have enough bodies to do the project management or the account management, in which case you can never fully transition because everyone has to help each other out because they're not mapped properly, okay? And then adopt and train the best practices. They don't necessarily know them. Don't expect that they do know them, okay? Train those best practices, and then once you're done with that, now you can leverage Workamajig, okay? So we're doing all of this, which all sounds a little difficult, doesn't it? It's not simple, but it's totally doable. But we're doing this so that we can get actionable data, right? When I can take complex data elements and I can pull them together and then correlate them, I can get powerful insights, okay? And I can now manage my agency off of that, and I can actually make good decisions. Not bad decisions and not gut decisions. I can make really good decisions. If I can do that, what am I going to get? What am I going to get if I can actually make the right decisions from my data? I can actually grow profitable clients. And I can sunset unprofitable clients. Really important here. I can expand my profitable services. I know which ones are. And I'm probably not going to sunset, but I can fix my unprofitable services, right? I'm going to create a culture of accountability, right? That's one of the things. I talk to employees all the time, and one of their biggest frustrations with principals, believe it or not, is that nobody's held accountable. We said we were going to do this. We didn't do it. It's kind of like the timesheet thing, right? You know, here's, I think, the methodology I hear from a lot of people, which is not the right methodology, which is there are just some people will never fire over timesheets. It's right, it's that best creative director, right? It's your best strategist or your best salesperson. Those are the people. It's like, oh, everybody else we might fire over timesheets, but not these guys, okay? That's a problem, right? Because what message does that send everybody else? It sends everybody else, well, if I'm going to do what they do, right? And you're not really going to fire me because they don't. So again, you have to create the culture of accountability. There are too many excuses in this industry because people don't know what they're supposed to be doing, they haven't been communicated, they haven't been trained, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Do all that stuff. Eliminate the excuses and then have the technology and have the data where you can actually hold people accountable. When I can do that, I can actually reward the valued team members instead of everybody equally, the ones that contribute and the ones that don't, right? That's what people are doing these days. They're just giving everybody a bonus because they don't actually know which ones are contributing the most value to the firm. And now I can actually, once I've done all that, I will be able to effectively allocate my resources. How many people are struggling with allocating their resources? They are because they don't have the right data. Okay, they don't have the right data to actually make those decisions. And I can't, how many people I've talked to so many people here about revenue forecasting. Most people are missing the good data for revenue forecasting, right? You can identify production bottlenecks easily, and ultimately you're going to support your strategic decision making with this. And we're going to create that agency that actually has the profitability that we can make really good, we can take great risks, and we can have these great opportunities. We can work on these fun projects, and we know we're not going to make any money on them, but that's okay, because we're making the money where we need to be making the money. So, if I have an integrated project management discipline and I have Workamajig, I now have actionable data, okay? Insight comes from cause and effect. If you can link cause and effect, you can gain insights, okay? If my Workamajig transactional data is driving my general ledger data, okay, now I can now say, this is what it felt like last month, this is what the operational data says we did last month, and this is the financial result of that. Most agencies are not managing their system in a way. They bought an integrated system, but they're managing it as separate systems, instead of having the transactional data drive the general ledger data. If that happens, then I can tell so much about my agency, right? I've just gained a whole new level of insight about my agency. But, want to know why half the people here are not doing that? It's because their transactional data is garbage, right? So if I were to let my transactional data drive my general ledger data, then my financials would be garbage. And most accounting people say, nope, not going to happen. I would rather make the decisions than let the transactional data feed accounting because I don't trust it. And I don't trust it because I know nobody's looking at the details. Nobody's shepherding that data. And by the time it's going to come to me, it's going to be garbage. And I'm better off making the decisions myself, right? Okay, well, that doesn't ultimately work, okay? We need to be better than that, okay? PMs should know everything that's on their jobs. So if they know everything that's on their jobs to do their job, then PMs, with accounting's help, they're the stewards of the data. They make it work, okay? And ultimately, they get transaction management and data fixes. They work with accounting to make sure that things get transferred, that things get fixed. And then ultimately, that's how they can do good project management. Because if they're just looking at a bunch of garbage in their system, I see so many people, and I ask them, I'm like, well, how are you managing budget to actuals? And I get crickets, right? Because they're not, right? And it's scary, and I'm going, they figure it all out after the fact, okay? But you can't fix it after the fact. You can fix it in the middle, right? That's what you need to be doing. But that being able to manage your projects as they're going, it literally leads right into this actionable data, okay? So, we need to clean up our data. What are we going to do? How are we going to clean up our data? Okay? There's obviously, you got a lot of historical data you're going to clean up. You're going to make a decision about how detailed you want to go into that or not. Okay? Sometimes we just want to let it lie. It was ugly, it was bad, it was gross. We're not going to ever look at it again. Let's just clean up moving forward. Or there might be some effort that you want to put into that data, or maybe we just clean up 16, right? We can decide. You need to clean up and map the billing matrix, okay? That billing matrix that is the guts of Workamajig, that's what connects your transactional data to your general ledger data, okay? You want to make sure that that is mapped properly, okay? And so that we can always drive things from transactional data. That would require you obviously updating your revenue and cost of goods sold accounts. Get well-defined client architecture, okay? Especially for those of you with really complex clients where you work with lots of business units and lots of pieces, you ultimately want to be doing that. You want to be setting that client architecture because it's going to help you with profitability. You want to make sure you're utilizing work in progress. I know, I think Vince is talking about that later. It's critical. Listen to him. But you really want to be using work in progress. Obviously, you got to clean things up first, but you definitely want to be doing that. Make sure you're utilizing advanced bills and pre-billing, POs, IOs, BOs, reconciliation processes. All of these are critical. Weekly transaction management. Weekly transaction management. Project managers need to be looking at the data within their projects at a minimum weekly. Okay, critical. Monthly revenue recognition and billing meetings. If you're not holding these, you need to be. Every project should be analyzed for where it should be from a revenue perspective, or where maybe we need to bill it this month, whatever it might be. We need to be having those meetings. It is the meeting of accountability once a month, okay? And that's how you're gonna fix things. You need to be making write-offs and doing value adds every month, and proper daily timekeeping. Did you hear me? Daily timekeeping. I know that is painful. It's not weekly, it's daily, every day, okay? Has to happen. If any of you in here think you're gonna get to resourcing without daily timekeeping, get to really good resourcing, you're crazy, okay? You have to have daily timekeeping. And then again, ensure that that general ledger data, the transactional data drives that general ledger data. It's critical. So, what are we gonna get if we do that? What are we gonna get? Okay, I've just told you something that's really hard to do, but there's a light at the end of the tunnel. One of my biggest frustrations is that we work with our clients and they spend a lot of money with us to get beautiful data. And then what, right? And then it takes all this analysis and all of this difficult trying to dig in to figure out how I'm gonna do it. So what we've done, what our team has done, is we've basically developed dashboards. We've been working on this for the last 3 years, and we've developed these best practice dashboards that basically say this is what you need to be looking at. These are the things that matter that are gonna change your agency now that I have good data. Without this, this is not possible. But with this, now I can figure out what I need to figure out with my agency. What you can see here is that I can look at my utilization numbers and I can see that I have a firm here that is billing, you know, they have billable hours of $3.8 million. But if everybody hit their targets, I could make $2.6 million more dollars with everybody that I have today. Okay? If everybody just hit their targets. Okay? I'm spending $1.3 million on new biz. The opportunity cost of all the time I'm spending on new biz is $1.3 million. And oh, by the way, I'm spending $2.6 million on internal projects. That better be an awesome set of internal projects. Let me guess, they're redoing their website and they're rebranding themselves. I bet that's it. 3 times over, okay? But just think about that. I could be doing work. I could be doing $2.6 million in work, but instead, I'm rebranding myself. Is it worth it? I don't know, but that's the things you need to ask yourself. And by the way, nobody's hitting their targets, which basically means I'm technically 12.2 people overstaffed, right? So that means, hey, I need to get more business in the door, okay? And I need to figure out how do I translate all of this non-billable time into billable time. And then I need to go down to my employee level here, and I need to say, who are my top performers? Who are my bottom performers, right? And how do they compare within the agency? How do they compare for billable? Are they in the top quarter? Are they in the bottom quarter? Where are they? Okay, now I can see, where is everybody? Okay, I can also see, we just talked about utilization. What about realization, right? There's 2 factors here. How billable is everybody and how much of that billable work is actually getting billed to clients, right? Those are our 2 factors. So now I'm looking at my realization reporting. Okay, I have a realization gap that I'm writing off $400,000 unplanned. So I might have $83,000 in planned, but I have $400,000 unplanned. This is not a good thing, right? I need to figure out how to handle this. But I also know that I have unplanned by reason. Just so you know, a huge portion of that was because I was over-servicing and over-delivering on my accounts. Or maybe I mis-scoped my digital work, right? Depending upon what it is. These are all of this data. You can get all of this out of Workamajig. You just got to use it properly, okay? And if I take it down to the next level, I can take it down to projects. Which of my projects did I write off more than 50% of my projects? Where are my trouble projects? And why am I consistently writing off my website projects, for example? Or my certain collateral projects? What are the reasons behind that? And I think that these are the things that are going to change it. There are two types of people out there that are looking at this data. A lot of people understand exactly what's wrong with their agency, but they don't have the data to prove it. When I was able to walk up to a creative director and I said, listen, you did $1 million in billable work last month in your department. That's amazing. But we could only bill for 50% of it. We need to talk. We need to talk about this. How do we fix this? Now all of a sudden he'll talk to me. But before, when it was my gut, when I knew what was wrong, I couldn't get him to sit down and listen to me. But now I can, because now there's accountability, right? And then there's another set of people where it's like, I can't put my finger on it. Like, I don't know quite what's wrong in my agency. I'm playing whack-a-mole with all of the symptoms, right? And I'm really trying to nail them down, but I don't know what's really wrong. This is going to tell you what's really wrong. It's going to tell you you're misscoping digital. It's going to tell you you're over-servicing and over-delivering in creative. It's going to tell you exactly what's wrong. But you're not going to get there if you don't have clean data, right? That's the ultimate key here. So how do we bring this together? Okay, what do we do next? Okay, what do you guys need to do when you walk out of this room? You need to identify your champions. Okay, you need leadership buy-in. You need to implement or refine your project management discipline. Some of you may just need to refine it a little bit. Some of you may need to deploy an entire unified project management discipline. Okay, clarify those roles and responsibilities. Okay, implement all of the integrated project management best practices. Clean up that historical data. Make the Workamajig system setup adjustments that you might need to make. Redefine, map that billing matrix so that, and your chart of accounts so that that transactional data can drive the general ledger data properly. And implement your accounting best practices. That's absolutely critical in making sure this happens. And then at the end of the day, you have to establish that culture of daily timekeeping. I will say it again and again. It is a habit. You just got to gain it. Coming from a timekeeper themselves, I can tell you, when I have gone a few days, I hate myself because it takes me 3 times as long to do my timesheet, and I know I'm forgetting something, and I can't remember what it was, right? And for those of you who are time and materials based, this is costing you real money, real dollars every single day. For those of you that are fixed bid, it's costing you the historicals, and you're probably scoping wrong because of it, right? So you're not going to get better if you don't get everybody there, okay? I know this seems like a lot of work, but there is a light at the end of the tunnel to this. There really is, and I've seen a lot of people turn their businesses around, go from a 50% realization to a 90% realization in 8 months, right? That equates to $2.5, $3 million. And remember, when I fix my realization gap, all those dollars go to the bottom line because I'm already paying all the people to do the work. I'm just not getting paid for it. So I just need to now get paid for it. And the second I get paid for it, it's all profit that I can invest back in that agency. That's how I'm going to go from that 9% profitability to my 25, 30% profitability for the agency, or even more for some, okay? That's how I'm going to do that. It's going to be this integrated project management discipline. It's going to be leveraging this technology, getting that actionable data, and then using that to change behavior. That is how you're going to make those changes. Okay, I don't think I left enough time for questions. I'm sorry. But you guys can find me and talk to me anytime because I'm happy to talk about any of this stuff. Okay, thank you.